Your home is a reflection of who you are. But what if you're not satisfied with your home or that reflected version of yourself? What if I told you you could transform your life using interior design as a medium? You see, I hold this romantic yet scientific and metaphysical belief that in the pursuit of creating your dream home, you're actually creating that dream version of yourself that will live there. I created the Reno Diaries series to document the transformation of my 1964 MCM home that I purchased in May of 2024 from the original owner. I began doing renovations in spring of 2025, and for some reason I began filming it. This is before I started a YouTube channel. I think I just always had it in my mind that one day, maybe, well, today is that day. So today I'm going to be discussing with you the decision making, the constraints, and the mindset needed to renovate a home. And adopting those things, you're going to transform into the next level version of you. When I moved into this house, it was very clean, completely structurally sound, but terribly outdated. So spoiler alert, there are not going to be any torn down walls or like bursting pipes on this channel. Like, that's not what this is about. It is about living in a renovation while you kind of slowly transform it over time. I would say as you approach a renovation, you want to identify 1 to 3 objectives that are going to be like your guiding principles throughout. I'm going to post mine up here, but overall, I was looking to retain the open, light-filled kind of vibe of the house while adding in some modifications that would enhance like my lifestyle and kind of the functionality of the space. Your key objectives are going to help you make challenging decisions as they come up. This can be in regard to like your budget, your timelines, your selections, and your overall aesthetic. The first thing I needed to determine was a budget. And to be completely honest with you, I didn't really have one. That's not to say because I am a baller by any means. It's because I broke the project into different phases, and I decided I would tackle each phase as funds and time became available to me. That first phase, I needed to refinish my ceilings, my floors, and paint on my walls. This really helps me to be mindful of my spending, to track things. I have every receipt still, to carefully plan. And overall, I decided I was going to do as much work as I could because I knew that the material costs are the material costs. They're not going to change. They're certainly not going to go down in cost, but it was something like I could keep an eye out for sales and not feel rushed to make decisions. Manual labor would be the thing that would cost me the most. And as I made the decision to DIY, I wasn't going to have to hire out many things for the project. I will say my toxic trait is watching YouTube videos of DIYers and being like, I can do that, I can do that. That's a great quality to be ambitious, but also you need to have a humble estimate of yourself, of the time you have available. If you have other obligations, you know, you're gonna have to decide those things. Like take a holistic approach of your life if you're gonna DIY and say like, hey, if I'm, going through this major change, this may not be the best time to add a renovation that I'm going to DIY into the mix. So the first thing I wanted to do in here was to get rid of the popcorn ceilings. And I understand that that may be perceived as an unnecessary expense, but I absolutely loathe popcorn ceilings. I actually scraped the popcorn ceiling in my previous condo, and it's incredibly messy, but it's actually very satisfying when it comes off in these like big curls of ribbon. Like it's just, oh, there's something about it I really enjoyed. So I don't mind doing that work. However, in this house, the ceiling was painted. So as I went and I started trying to scrape the popcorn ceilings, like nothing was happening. And I tried all these crowdsourced solutions, nothing was happening. I knew I had to get rid of it. So this was a bit of a cost that I didn't anticipate. However, a friend referred me to Taylor the Taper, and he was awesome. He recommended doing a knockdown ceiling in this house, essentially because it's an older home. Like if I did a skim coated flat ceiling, you would be able to see every imperfection as the house has like settled and maybe shifted the boards, or maybe what's it called, drywall mud, kind of maybe be visible, those lines that sometimes you can see. So because the age of the home, I trusted him and I went with a knockdown ceiling. Now, knockdown, if you're not familiar with it, it kind of looks like small scale camouflage print that's like flat. I actually really like the way it looks. It's much better over popcorn. There's a few other alternatives you could explore out there. But he said that he would give me a discount if I dry scraped all of the, popcorn stalactites that protrude from the ceiling. So I said deal. And again, this may seem like an unnecessary expense. It actually was way less than what I thought it would be. But he gave me a little bit of a deal. It wasn't huge, but it was much appreciated. But again, I know that light moves around a room so much better, and that was part of one of my guiding principles, the key objective I mentioned. So we did skim coat the bathroom, just because that already had an existing flat ceiling. The kitchen just around like the skylight a little bit, and I painted the bathroom ceiling myself afterwards, save some money. The other big messy project that happened in that first phase was sanding the floors. And this one I decided to do myself because I weighed the time to money kind of conversion. Like, how much money would it take to have this professionally done in like 2 weeks versus over what ended up being several months, honestly. The quotes I got were like $7,000 to $10,000, and that was just money I wasn't willing to allocate to my floors. Like, I had other places I wanted to put money, and the 7,000 low end of that was if I sanded the floors myself, and then the guy came in and prepped them and then stained them. To me, that just was not worth it. And so I devoted as long as it would take, and it took a long time. I am a DIY weekend girly, maybe 1 to 2 nights during the weekdays, but overall this was happening on the weekend. So I approached this after watching some YouTube videos with the help of my boyfriend. I put in the effort, and I'm very happy with the outcome of that. One thing to note is, as you're getting quotes from contractors, ask them those questions like, hey, if I dry scrape the popcorn myself, could you shave a couple $100 off? Or if I prime the walls myself, will your guys come in and paint? Is there a reduced rate for that? Like, ask those questions. If you don't have the time to DIY, those are like, that's like a 30-70% DIY. So like you can do 30% of the work and set it up for them, and they can do all the hard stuff if you don't have that time or that bandwidth. Maybe maybe you have kids, or you're looking after an elderly parent, or you just don't want to. Like, that's okay too. You don't have to either go 0 or 100. So again, you want to make some really careful decisions up front. You're going to decide your budget, how much time you can allocate to the project. Say you have a kid who's traveling for like sports or something. Maybe you can't DIY everything. You're going to have to time it according to your life. You want to figure out how much you can DIY versus hire out. And the last thing I'm going to say is, like, decide to trust yourself whichever way you go. Hold on to those commitments and those key objectives that are guiding your renovation, because you're going to have many external challenges or constraints. And we're going to talk about constraints next. There are many constraints that you're going to experience through the lifespan of your renovation. Things like time and budget, of course, we're all going to experience those regardless of how much time we have and regardless of how much money we have to throw at a project. There are so many other constraints, though, that are beyond your control completely that can become points of frustration. These are things like retailer hours. You know, when you need to go buy another can of paint and that shop is closed, or when they tell you this is a custom color, you have to come back tomorrow and we'll have it available for you, and you're planning to paint that night. True story. Things like equipment rentals, it's rented out the weekend you needed it, even though you called ahead of time. Weather, if you wanted to stain or paint something outside, or you needed to move your furniture outside. You know, these are things that can become challenges also. There's also going to be constraints with the materials that you're using. In one of my videos, it's called 3 Tips for a Successful Renovation. I talk about materiality and applications in that video. And the applications, it's really important because, you know, think about paint drying. How much time does it need before you can apply a second coat? And how does that affect your time when you're planning what time of day you're going to start painting it? I had an instance where I mixed all the stain one night and I didn't really plan that much in advance. I just thought I could like cover it and come back the next morning. Well, that was not the case, because once you mixed it, it was activated and it would be good for 6 hours to apply. And so we actually stayed up till like 2:30 a.m. applying stain just to make sure we weren't wasting product, because it was quite expensive also. So that was like a silly mistake I made. One of my biggest challenges was allocating the budget according to the maximum impact that design decision would have on the space. So when it came to paint, I had painted a lot with other brands over the years, and a friend had recommended to me Sherwin-Williams Emerald. Yeah, it's their Emerald line. It's actually their designer line. And with it, I was able to get a discount, which was wonderful. One other tip, if you've recently purchased a home, sometimes your realtors will have discount codes for new homeowners. So ask your realtor. That is something that you can use, like based on their account. And it was an incredible cost savings. I think I saved like $50 per can by using that discount. When I applied this paint, I loved the finish. I got a small can to start to test the colors and everything. I'll do a separate video about paints and all that, but in applying the paint, the finish was so nice and I just absolutely loved it. So I highly recommend that paint, and if you can get a discount on it. They also have major sales around long weekends. That's another thing with DIY stuff. Look for the sales before long weekends, and that's a get in line, get queued up, know exactly what you need, so that when that long weekend comes, you have the time to do it. You've already purchased your paint. Another new product that I used was the Rubio Monocoat to stain the floors. And the reason I went with this is because it had an incredible color palette and range. Like, there are different finishes and pre-treatments you can apply. You can achieve so much using their products. The other thing, it's incredibly safe and sustainable. It's like all ecological oils and it's 0% VOC. The finish was another thing I really wanted right. There's a lot of, like, when I scraped this floor, it was at really ultra thick, mid-century thick, like polyurethane, and I don't like that at all. So while it's still a really warm wood tone, I went with something much more natural that I can walk on it on my bare feet and I can feel the texture of the wood below. And it's really nice. It feels good in here. I will say the Rubio, I winced a little and I made a couple errors, so I had to rebuy stain. But I really liked it enough to kind of sacrifice that. Another constraint to this project was time. So I mentioned I did this weekends and 1 or 2 nights a week. So plan carefully when you're going to go buy materials and everything. The key here is to set a schedule that's sustainable, kind of like the gym, so that you actually can manage going, a couple times a week. Don't burn yourself out. I think if we view constraints as, pressures against us, and sometimes we can feel the pressure of that and it might feel negative, but if we flip it to say, like, how can this force me to think outside the box? How can it force me to make creative decisions and to do a little research at how other people handle this? Like, Reddit threads are great. Other YouTube videos, like I got help with my floors via YouTube videos essentially. These things, they can be constraints and challenges, but you can overcome them, absolutely. I think this is a really good time to talk about mindset. And really, I kind of touched on this in the other sections, but really keep that commitment to yourself. You're gonna be so glad you did at the end of it, and you're going to have such a feeling and sense of reward and deep satisfaction and being proud of yourself. Like, there was one day after staining the floors the first time, more on that later, I had bruises on my knees and I had worn knee pads. They were just really hard and they just still caused me to get bruises on my knees. And then I remember walking in one day and my boyfriend was like lying on the ground and he had like a palm sander and he was just kind of like staring off into space, like just sanding. And the reality is like, you are going to go through some really hard things, but if you can maintain that focus and that commitment to yourself and to your vision for your space, the space you deserve, you're going to come out on the other end of this like so much better. Our environments signal safety and rest and comfort, and there is nothing about a renovation that is any of those things. Very unsafe, very uncomfortable, and certainly there's no rest. I read a comment on a Reddit forum and someone was talking about how, their renovation was taking longer, and unfortunately the people in their life were kind of like saying things about it to them and they felt like a bit embarrassed about it. And I really felt for that person because I felt like a little wave of that here and there. And sometimes people say things not knowing how it comes across to you or knowing full well how it comes across. But one thing I've learned and that I want to share with you, adopting the mindset of an outlier, like a person who does not do something the way everybody else does. You have to let go of being understood by other people. And it doesn't matter if they get it or not, you get it. And really, it's like we're our own worst critics. So their judgments or whatever, or maybe a benign comment, it reflects back to you because you feel a sense of like maybe judging yourself a little bit. Really, when we let go of being understood, of being liked, of other people approving of what we're doing, you're really setting yourself free and you're going to have a lot of fun with this and other aspects in life. And if you don't have that available to you in the moment, sometimes when I'm feeling really sassy and I'm getting some sort of whatever from someone, in this case, let's use a renovation as an example, I'll say, are they paying for my renovation? Are they paying for, are they paying the bill for how much I spent to have someone do this for me? Are they paying the bill or spending the time for the things I'm doing for myself? Okay, no. Are they showing up with coffee on a Saturday morning and to lend me a helping hand for an hour even? No. Are they giving me words of encouragement or no? Okay, well, you know what? Your opinion, it's like nothing to me now. So that's sometimes like the line you got to draw. If they're not showing up for you with encouragement, a coffee, a helping hand, then their opinion can go kick rocks, okay? So oscillate between those two places of, releasing, letting go, and holding line for yourself. When you're in the thick of it and you just have ear protection and the sound of your own heartbeat and your own breath and your own thoughts, like that's where we have to develop that mental resilience in this home renovation process to like encourage ourselves. My boyfriend wasn't here all the time with me. He was here a lot with me and he was amazing, but there were times I was here by myself. And when I've renovated other things on my own before I met him, I was by myself, and it can be kind of depressing at times. That's the reality. Maybe just for me, but that was my reality. That's like you have to pull yourself up. And those are the times when you got to flip your negative thoughts. And maybe if you're not in a mood to say, like, oh, yeah, I can totally do this, maybe you can start with a thought of, this really sucks. I'm going to keep doing this for another hour. I'm going to keep going. I believe in myself for the next 60 minutes. And then you can go lie down. You can shower and go lie down after that. Okay? So if you've made it this far into the video, then I know you're a real one and you are going to make it through. I believe in you. You can do this. If you have any tips on how you stay positive in your renovation, or maybe you just need like a word of encouragement, just drop a comment below and I will respond to you. Okay? See you on the next one. Bye.